Hi everybody, today I'm going to give you 6 tips. Okay, this is not 6, but I will give you 6 tips. I'll give you 6 tips on how to be a great penny stock trader. Trading penny stocks is a skill to learn. It's easy to make profit once or twice. You might even make 100%, 200% profit. But to do it consistently, that's the hard part. Consistently making profits from penny stocks takes practice, experience, and intuition. Now, this is not a technical analysis how-to video, but rather a video on the strategy of trading and playing with penny stocks. So here's my 6 tips on how to do well with penny stocks. Have you ever missed out on buying a stock and then you watch it grow day after day, over 100% every day, and you decide, okay, this needs to stop, I need to get in now. So you buy the stock and the next day it crashes down to earth like the Twin Towers on 9/11. Now, if this never happened to you before, then you're either lying or you never bought a stock in your life. So my tip number 1 for you is do not FOMO. Now, FOMO is fear of missing out. And what happens is typically you make stock decisions based on your own emotion. My general rule of thumb is for penny stocks, if the stock price went up 30%, 40%, anything over that in the last day or two, then I don't buy in ever. And another thing with FOMO is that sometimes you buy the stock, it goes up, you sell, and then you watch it climb more, and you're like, oh shit, I gotta get back in, I gotta buy that stock again. Now, that's FOMOing back into the stock, and again, don't do that. Now, onto tip number 2. Do not use your life savings to play with penny stocks. Hell, don't use your whole life savings, your entire life saving to play with any stock. If this is you, please get help. So really just have a rainy day fund set aside and play with the money that you can afford to lose. For me, my own risk tolerance is playing penny stocks should be less than 15% of my entire portfolio. And of course, this can be tweaked to your own risk level. Tip number 3, finding great penny stocks to invest in. Generally, for me, there are 2 ways. One is technical analysis, and the second one is riding the hype. For me, technical analysis means doing some research on a stock, checking if it has a low float, if it has increasing volume, if the price has been slowly gaining but hasn't exploded exponentially. And there's a couple more tips that I'll go on to talk about later. Now, the second way to find a great penny stock is called riding the hype. And this is where you monitor your social media, whether it's StockTwits, Twitter, YouTube, Reddit, or any media source you like, and you monitor it to see what people are commonly discussing about, like perhaps a new ticker that your favorite YouTuber has been pushing. These are also great ways to find a stock, and the only caveat to that is if it looks like everyone is trying to push the stock, then you're probably too late, and the stock price has already kind of peaked. Now, if you don't use social media, or if you don't really follow any of the guys that discuss stocks on social media, then you can check out my Python program, which is basically a program that goes on Reddit to look for trending and popular stocks. And there is a website also made by another Reddit user. So thanks to him, we can go on the website and really quickly find stocks that are gaining in popularity. Now, that's riding the hype, right? Like I mentioned, the other way is to look for technical analysis, finding stock with good technicals, and you can use a free stock screener called FinViz, and I'll link that down below also. Now, tip number 4 is do your own research. When you find a potential stock that you like, make sure you do a lot of research on it. Ask yourself some questions like, what industry are they in? How are the competitors doing? Is their revenue increasing? Do they have debt? If so, how much? Do they have a product? And are they expecting an acquisition maybe? Do they have a history of doing offerings? What about the float amount? And really, you should be asking more questions than that, but these are just some examples. Now, something to take note is that a company with bad fundamentals could still be a really good short-term play. And I'm not saying you shouldn't try to play a company with bad fundamentals. But then just really be careful about parking your money in a company with not so great fundamentals for any long period of time. All right, tip number 5, and that is to set your stop losses. Now, there are two types of stop losses that I typically use. One is a limit stop loss, and one is a trailing stop loss. The limit stop loss basically says that if a stock drops below this price, then sell it. Now, the trailing stop loss is basically a stop loss where you can set a percentage, let's say 10%. Then if the stock price keeps going up, and then there's a day where it goes down 10%, then your stop loss will be triggered and it will sell the stock. And this is good because if your stock price keeps going up without going down more than 10%, which is what you're comfortable with, then you get to see the stock keep climbing. Now, like with everything, there are exceptions to this. Sometimes you might not want to set a stop loss. Maybe if the company has really good fundamentals, you really believe in the company, and you can hold it through a loss, then sure, don't set a stop loss, and maybe even considering averaging down on the stock if it dips. Now, in a regular stock market, we say time in the market beats timing the market, but that's really not the case with penny stocks. You do need to kind of time things generally. Don't get emotionally attached to a specific stock, and cutting losses quickly is a key way of maximizing your profits. And we're at the last tip number 6. So tip number 6 is really simple, and that's take profits. Now, the timing is important, of course, in taking profit. A lot of the times you'll see people that say, oh, it'll skyrocket after this meeting, or the catalyst is coming up and the price is gonna shoot up. Take that with a grain of salt. If you are comfortable with the profit level of the stock right now, then take your profit, whether it's 5%, 10%, 30%, 50%, 1,000%. If you're happy with your profit, take them. And last but not least, there is one secret rule, and that's know when to break the rules. Now, I'm going to share with you some of my personal experiences since I've been trading penny stocks for a couple months now. One of my first plays was XSPA, and XSPA is a spa company. They run their spa business inside airports. And of course, due to COVID, there has been a decline of business for their company. So what they did was they did a restructure, and they tried to provide COVID testing at the airports where they had their store locations. And they even signed on some of the big airports such as JFK. First of all, I bought into the stock, which I will reveal my positions here. Now, my first mistake with XSPA was not checking the fundamentals. Even before the COVID business, they weren't doing so great. And in hindsight, they're still not doing so great now. So what happened was that when they started doing the restructuring, they pushed out news for the restructuring. And I looked at it, I thought it was a great idea at the time. So I watched the stock for a little bit, but it climbed and climbed and climbed over 100% since the time I was watching it. And I was like, okay, I gotta get in to make some profits. So I FOMO'd in. And what happened was the stock dipped a bit, and I decided to average down again. And then they did a reverse split, and they still declined. So I bought some more. And over a couple of green days, they did go back up. So I decided to sell almost half of the shares that I had. silly me, when it dropped again, I bought some more, and after that they just kept going down in price. And after about, I think, 2 or 3 weeks, I decided to cut my losses. And there's another mistake here, because I should have cut my losses early. But anyways, I cut my losses after a couple of weeks, and I was down a couple $100, and that was around $3 something, and now they're $1 something. So in hindsight, that was still a better move than not cutting my losses at all. Now I want to share another example that I have here, and that's well.to. They are a Canadian-run company. They have physical clinics and locations, and they're trying to expand into the virtual health space by doing a bunch of acquisitions. But this is an industry that I personally think will do well in the future, and they do have the connections in the industry. They have the doctors that they need to provide the virtual services that they're trying to offer. So I think they are a company that will do well in the future. So I bought into Well around $2 something, and I think I sold them around $4 something. But because of tip number 7, I think because they have very good fundamentals, and I think they still have a lot of growth left, I bought back in around $4 again, and it's still in my portfolio now. Now the next stock that I want to talk about is Very, and I've been trading them for a while also. They're kind of in a similar shoe as well, in this fact that they are in a very good industry, and they have very good fundamentals as well. They're in the vegan meat industry, and a lot of their consumers have provided feedback on their products, whether it's meat or sausages or any of the other products they offer, and they all have raging feedback on how good it tastes. So personally, I think this is a really good company. They have a very bright future. You know what? I bought in Well. Also, I think around $2. Actually, I bought in Well at their IPO. Since then, I've kind of sold it and went back in and bought some again. And I think they're right around the $8 mark right now. And of course, they're still in my portfolio as well. Now the next stock I'll be talking about is called SCR.to. They're called Scores Media and Gaming. They're again a Canadian company, and they have been in the business for quite a while, I think since 2007 or something like that. They're in the gaming space for sports and betting. They kind of follow, if you're in the States, you probably know about Penn Gaming and DNKG. They're both e-gaming and sports betting. They're both in that industry, and SCR is kind of the Canadian version of that. I think since DKNG and Penn, they have been growing quite tremendously in the last couple of months. I think SCR will follow a similar path, albeit a bit slower because we're in Canada. Oh, and my position in SCR, I think I bought in around $1.50-ish, and I'm still holding it in my portfolio now. I think they're almost at the $3 mark. Now the next stock that I have as an example here is BIOC. The stock was my Ride the Hype stock. There was a lot of talk about it on Reddit back in May. So I bought it in around 43 cents, and I set a really, really low stop loss. I believe it was around 3 cents or so, 4 cents. This was when I was kind of just started playing with penny stock. My stop loss was a little bit too low. So I got triggered right away, and I sold. I took a little bit of a loss and I sold it. But again, it's an example of cutting your losses early. In hindsight, the stock did go up a little bit, but then it did crash down, and now I think it's around the same price, except they did a reverse split. Now I'm going to share you a story of greed and not setting your stop loss, and it's the story of BBRW. I bought in when it was 0.06 cents, and I bought a bunch of them. I sold it around 0.08 cents for a little bit of a profit, and then over the next couple of days I just watched it grow and grow and grow, almost 300% up to 4 cents. So I bought back in at 4 cents, and it did go up a little bit more, but I held, and boom, it just suddenly crashed down to 1.7 cents, and I sold it due to the fear. And over the next couple days, I watched it a little bit. It kind of hovered around 0.2 cents, and it did kind of try to climb back up a little bit sometimes. So I saw the pattern, and I was like, okay, you know what, I'll buy in at 0.2 cents. I FOMO'd back in. I sold it at 0.23 cents for a little bit of a profit, and I did it again. Bought in at 0.02 and sold it at 0.02 something, 23. And then I was like, you know what, let's keep playing the pattern if it works. So I bought in around 0.022 cents, and this time it didn't work. It went down to 0.17-ish. I averaged down a little bit, bought some more, and it just kept going down after that. So yeah, that is my biggest loser of the year. Now there are a lot more other trades that I've done, and I won't share all of them with you, obviously. My current holding right now, like I said, I'm still in very well, SCR.TO. Currently I added a position in TANH. It's in the EV sector if you want to do a little more research on that, about that yourself. And yeah, so I share my experiences with you. Hopefully you guys can learn from my experiences and don't make the same mistakes I did. And hope you enjoy the 6 tips, and leave a like, comment, and subscribe if you like what I'm doing. Peace out.